so kind, staring out into space, asking God to hear my case, trying to think of all things past. How long will my memory last? With purple angel, purple angel, purple angel, you're next to me.
Well, hi, everyone. This is Lori LeBay, the host and founder of Alzheimer's Speaks. I hope you're having a great day today. Before we get started with our show, I always like to give people a little idea of who the heck we are because we're always getting new listeners. So I'll just get that housekeeping out of the way. Bottom line, Alzheimer's Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. And we believe that by sharing forces and knowledge that we have and just having these everyday conversations about life with dementia, that we're going to be able to remove a lot of the stigmas and myths attached to memory loss and help people continue to live purpose-filled lives. At our core, we also believe collaboration is the only way we're going to win this battle against dementia. And I know it's working because of all of you. You see, your likes, your clicks, and your shares with your Facebook friends, your Twitter tribes, your Pinterest peeps, your LinkedIn colleagues have had a huge impact in moving our content out into the world. Back in 2012, we were recognized by ShareCare, which is the largest health and wellness company out there in Dr. Oz, as the #1 influencer online for Alzheimer's. And again, that was because of you guys sharing not only our radio show, but our webinars that we do called Dementia Chats, our information on our blogs, our Twitter pages, our Facebook pages, YouTube, etc. So thank you so much for being so kind and generous, and we hope that you will continue to share information, with your spheres, because we all have people that are dealing with this that we don't even know are dealing with this, and they're just kind of not comfortable coming out of the closet yet. So the more information that can be in front of people, the easier it's going to be for them to reach out and grab it. So today I am lucky enough to have a co-host with me, and his name is Craig Hankey, and Craig is actually living with dementia. So welcome, Craig. Would you mind telling our audience a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. I'm from Wisconsin. I'm 57 years old. I was diagnosed with early onset Lewy body dementia with Parkinsonism symptoms at age 53.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule. Now, our guest today, we are really lucky to have Becky Watson with us, and she's a board-certified music therapist. And a lot of you are wondering, what the heck is that? And she will tell us exactly what that is a little later in the program. She's also the founder and the owner of Music for Wellness, and she is a former Navy captain who served our country for over 25 years. So, whoop, whoop, thank you so much for your service, Becky. Really appreciate that. She has always been passionate about supporting health and wellness through music. And after her career in the Navy, she completed multiple training programs, including Teepa Snow's Positive Approach to Care, which if you haven't taken it, you want to check that out. Today, we are going to have just a fascinating conversation about the gift of music and how to create joy through rhythm. So thanks for joining us, Becky. How are you today?
I am fired up. That is a bass drum, which I play just to introduce myself. So I am so honored and so happy to be here to help reach your audience, Lori. Thank you.
Well, great. I'm glad that you're here. Can we start? I always like to ask people one question, and that is, have you personally been touched in your own family or circle of friends with dementia?
I have not personally with my family. However, when I was doing my music therapy internship at Eastern State Hospital, which is a mental health facility here in Virginia, we had the opportunity to work with acute psych for adults and also for geriatrics. And I was the geriatrics, where I would sing, where I play a drum, or I would strum a guitar. that's where I really realized how much music impacted people with dementia. So even though I haven't dealt with a family, I have really found out several years ago how much music helps them with dementia.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Why don't we start with if you can tell people, why you decided to become a board certified music therapist and what that actually means.
Yes. First of all, I am so honored to be here, Lori. You have such a great podcast that talks about crisis to comfort, and I'm just so honored to be able to share what I know. So what is a board-certified music therapist, and how I went from being in the Navy to being in the music? Just real short story. I grew up on a farm in Kansas, went to school first, college, because I was a musician. I played the piano, guitar, clarinet, and organ, and went to college on a music scholarship. But halfway through college, I realized I really liked business. And I didn't want to teach, nor did I want to perform in music. So I finished my business degree, and then I really wanted to see the world. What better way to see the world than to join the Navy? So I joined the Navy to see the world, and I was on active duty for 7 years. And all through my active duty days, I will say I felt I was missing something. I felt I wasn't following my true passion, which is music.
Mm-hmm.
So after 7 years of active duty, I decided to get out, stay in the reserves, Navy Reserve, and go back to school because I really missed music. And that's when I discovered music therapy as a college degree, as a profession. So what is music therapy? I like to keep it very simple. It is using music to reach non-musical outcomes. And it is through a college degree, which really is music, because we're a musician first. We also have the clinical skills. We have education also in psychology. It's practically a minor in psychology. In addition to that, we have all these medical background as well, a lot of medical classes as well, because music reaches all aspects from cradle to grave. So getting a degree in music therapy is very intense. It took me 19 years, but I had a diversion back in the Navy. It only really takes 4.5 years, but for me, it took me a long time. It's a very long journey. But after you get a degree in music therapy, a part of the degree process is after the classes of music and psychology, then you have to do an internship. We did an internship. I did mine close to where I lived here in Virginia at Eastern State Hospital. And that was for 6 months. And that's over 1,200 clinical hours with a supervised music therapist
Mm-hmm.
and a certain population. In addition to that, once you're done with that, then you take a board certification exam. Now, for me, it took me so many years to get my music therapy degree because I had to make diversions in the Navy for good reasons, but I just was called both places. The music therapy, the board certification exam was a 4-hour exam. It is intense because you're getting quizzed on every way music impacts children, to hospice, to neonatal, to autistic. So it was really tough, but I did it. I got through the exam. And then music therapists, once you're board certified, we have clinical hours. We have to do credentials. We have to do education afterwards. So we have to maintain our skills through CEU courses. And I had just found during my internship, that was really meant a lot to me. I realized how much I could really help people with dementia. Mm-hmm. And I really focused my business the last couple of years with that.
Wonderful.
So it's really using music to reach non-musical goals in a clinical bias and clinical way that is evidence-based research supporting it.
Okay, wonderful. Now, one of the things that and you talked about this a little bit, but in a nutshell, what would you say the biggest differences are in terms of a certified music therapist versus an entertainer in terms of their impact with a person?
Well, that's a great question because I see it a lot, especially in the seniors and with the older adults. What a music therapist brings is we bring the clinical experience. We can really adapt. We can read the way music impacts a person with dementia. So an entertainer is wonderful. I collaborate with a lot of entertainers just because music therapists can't be everywhere. There's only 7,000 of us in the United States. There's not very many. So entertainers are great about it. They can engage the seniors that are attending a program. But music therapists, we usually have smaller groups, but we can really take what the person with dementia can give us, and we can read what they're saying, read what they're doing, and be able to alter in the moment. So we do session plans. We make sure everything is really adaptable. We modify it very on the spot because we have those clinical skills. In addition to, we have the musician skills. And music therapist also does an assessment. So before I go into a facility as a potential client or as a potential facility as a client, I really do a demonstration to see, do they need a music therapist or can an entertainer work? Because some high-functioning senior, they just want somebody to sing to them. That's great because they can hire Elvis. Well, you can't hire Elvis, but we have a lot of Elvis impersonators here in our community, but you can hire an entertainer for that. So if you want somebody that has a smaller group that really wants to interact and be able to reach more goals than just entertainment, music therapists really are good at that. So you have the assessment where you're really looking at the skills of that individual or that group provides. But also, I like to say it is at the end of a session, I write a narrative or write progress notes and give it back to the facility so they know what we did. And I have the goals in there. So the goals are very intentional. We did this song because of, those kind of things. So music therapists really are, we're skilled. We have clinical skills that really back up being able to reach at much richer experience for the person with dementia.
Okay, great. Craig, I just want to ask you if you had a good understanding between a music therapist and an entertainer, if that even crossed your mind.
I didn't until she explained it, but now I do.
Okay, because a lot of people don't even know that you guys exist, and I know I didn't until my mom had dementia, and
I didn't, Lori. I didn't either. Here I was in college. Here I was with 7 years of active duty in the Navy. I wanted to go back to school because I wanted to finish my music degree, but I didn't want to perform nor did I want to teach. And I stumbled upon music therapy by walking in a college campus. I didn't either. So I'm big on advocating what is music therapy and how it can help for very, very specific skills and goals.
Yep. I agree. Now, one of the things, you had come on with the drum and stuff. Can you tell us what is rhythm-based music therapy? What exactly does that mean, and how do people get involved with something like that?
Well, rhythm is one of the components of music. Music has 4 elements. Rhythm, you have melody, harmony, and you have, I call it silence, or you have space. Rhythm is really motion. If you look at what the definition of rhythm is, it is element of music pertaining to forward motion. It moves us forward in life, especially when we feel challenged or stuck. So rhythm, the first sense we are hearing when in our mother's womb is our mother's heartbeat. That is rhythm. It's a steady pulse. It's in our heartbeat. So it's just the tapping of a drum. So what is this rhythm-based music therapy? Is a music therapy practice that really emphasizes on rhythm. Rhythm being, we use that as a primary reason. And most of my groups have some type of rhythm. Rhythm, I talk about being the 15 E's. The first reason why it's rhythm is just easy. Easy being is part of our body. We are wired for rhythm. We have a heartbeat. That is our pulmonary rhythm. We have our cardiac rhythm. We have our circadian rhythm, which is our sleep-wake cycle. We have also our brain rhythm, alpha, beta waves. So we are biologically wired for rhythm. We can't help it. We tap our toes. We have rhythm in our heart. We breathe with rhythm. So first of all, and if you use instruments with the rhythm, it just elevates and it brings a different dynamic level to it. So it's basically using rhythm in a way that anybody can do because it's easy. And there's a couple other reasons why I like to use rhythm. It energizes. I mean, many places I go to, the residents have been sitting for a little while, and they're looking for some way to be engaged in a meaningful, purposeful task that energizes them. And just like that drum, you can kind of tell what my rhythm was because I played at a very fast tempo. But you can alter the tempo. So it's using the rhythm that anybody can do because we're wired for it. May not be able to say a word, but you can still tap your toes, clap your fingers, snap your fingers, nod your head. That's all in rhythm.
Okay. And I guess I remember seeing that with my mom, even when she was in the end stages, she would just kind of, her body would come alive, even though she couldn't speak and sometimes wouldn't even have her eyes open. Those toes would be tapping or her wrist would be going or even her fingers. It didn't make any difference, but she could feel the beat. Now, part of what and I don't know if I'm correct on this, but it seemed like her body could actually feel the beat. It wasn't just about hearing. It seemed to me that her senses got higher in a lot of different areas. And I'm going to ask Craig this. Craig, do you feel like your sense of touch and maybe even smell or sight, do you think any of those have increased for you? Sound?
My sight has actually decreased, but sound and hearing has increased.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like when somebody is blind, that their hearing more or less takes over.
Okay.
The sense of smell has been influenced by the dementia also. I smell a lot of like burning wire kind of smells.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people, and then that kind of scares them if there's a fire because they think that it's not real because they just smell that now. But I know with my mom, she seemed to be extra tuned into sound. And I've heard, like there's different types with the drum. I've heard that they can feel the vibration or the harps. Is that something that's been researched, Becky, or is that just a wives' tale that's whipping around out there?
Yeah. Yes, there's been research with that, definitely, especially with the rhythm, with music therapy, especially that with music therapists. But yes, there's been research, especially it's called rhythmic auditory stimulation, RAS, and that's used quite frequently with people with stroke, recovering from a stroke, or even Parkinson's, but mostly with stroke rehab, where they will actually play a drum beat or a metronome, something with a very steady beat, and they'll walk with especially with someone with a slight gait, the unbalanced gait or a gait that's not quite even. They will actually tap the rhythm with a drum or a metronome, and their gait will improve. And that's been in fact, we have a place here in our local community that's still doing research on this, but they can measure how the walking has improved through the RAS, which is basically rhythmic auditory stimulation, where they're actually tapping the beat and their body is their muscles are responding to the beat.
Okay.
So the mind's not through, it's the muscles, it's muscle memory. So muscles is doing that. They do that a lot with speech as well. They'll do not so much with the drumming, but with music.
Okay.
Yes, there's all kinds of great research. And in fact, Craig, I was going to suggest that you can, I'm not sure, have you used music at all to help with your walking? Do you have any issues walking as far as with the gait?
Not a gait as of yet, but I do have a lot of trouble with stability.
Yes, I would say one thing you may want to try or explore is if you have some music that's got a steady rhythm. I call it even a march, but something that matches where you're at, energized-wise. You don't get something too fast, but you might see if that helps with your balance. just, like I said, balance. Because I could see with your vision being impaired, that definitely messes with, it helps, it may affect your other senses.
Sure.
So they're, yes.
No, I was just going to add, I just saw on Facebook the other day, somebody had posted I want to say it was a therapist, and she was walking with a man who had Parkinson's. And he was very stiff, and, she had the belt around him. And, she says in her little, handmade video, she said, I want you to watch this. We're going to watch him walk his normal gait. And I want you to see how he struggles and how off balance he is. And she, used the belt, and he was using his walker and just having a difficult time moving around. And then she said, okay, now we're going to stop and we're going to turn on the music. And she just, put her phone on and played music, and they stood there for maybe 30 to 60 seconds, probably 30 seconds, till his body got the beat, and you kind of saw him bouncing. And then he started walking. His whole gait changed, like instantly. And pretty soon he put his walker to the side, and pretty soon she was able to take the belt off him. And the next thing you knew, he was dancing with her. I mean, and it was just like, it was unbelievable, to see that. And you hear those stories, and of course you have to be careful with you don't want anyone to fall, and this was a professional working with somebody, but it was really amazing to be able to see that occur. And you could just even tell by his facial expressions what was going on, and that he was
absolutely. That's
so engaged.
Lori. Yeah. Oh, it's so engaged and so amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So that might be something you want to check out and see if you see a difference at all, or maybe you already have, Craig, in terms of have you felt music change your mood or your walking gait or anything like that? Have you noticed a difference?
Music definitely changes my mood. I've been playing trumpet for 49 years and just took up the guitar. So I go to music as a backup when medication's not working or I'm having a bad day. I usually go play my own music or play music on the radio.
Oh, neat.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Craig. Great.
I learn something new every time with my experts living with dementia. Now, I did not know that about him, so that's kind of a fun little detail there to know. Can you tell us, Becky, what are some important points to consider with the sensory changes, as a person ages and or, has dementia, because people with all ages can get dementia, especially with percussion instruments? What should they be looking for or trying to do?
Oh, that's a great question, Lori, because I will say in the field of, the senior care industry, people just want to help. Professionals, music therapists, but also even just care partners and entertainers. They just want to help, and so they think it's doing a great service for folks. So I would say music is very powerful. It's a gift, but it's also a risk. R-I-S-K, especially percussion. And I will say I had the hugest aha moment when I went to the virtual dementia tour, which is by secondwind.org. It's a simulation of going in awareness of somebody living with dementia. And I went through that experience. It was just really, it made me realize how important it is to really factor those things in. So specifically with percussion, first thing is you got to make sure if somebody's in a highly elevated state, very just really agitated, very emotional. The last thing you want to do is hand them a music instrument or a drum.
Sure.
Sometimes they could be a weapon. So I spend one day a week at a geriatric psych hospital, and I'm learning every single day. But one thing I say, you really got to look at their mood. I mean, at some point you could probably help them descale, but the biggest thing is it can really make people more agitated just because the rhythm might be too loud.
Sure.
For them.
So
the very first thing.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because some of our listeners might not know what a percussion instrument is. Can you name off a few?
Yeah, percussion could be a shaker. When I say shaker, egg, like an egg shaker. It's like a little egg, but it's filled with beets. It's a shaker.
Mm-hmm.
I love little shakers because it's energized.
Mm-hmm.
Percussion could be any type of drum. Our pots and pans. When we were young, when we were young and toddlers, we probably played our pots and pans at home. That, because that with a spatula, that could be a percussion instrument. But a drum, different types of drums. I like using little, they call them sound shapes. They're made by Remo, R-E-M-O, sound shapes. But they look like a little plate. But they're flat-shaped drums in different shapes. But because I go to so many facilities, I like taking the sound shape because you can put them in your lap and you play the drum with your fingers or with a mallet. Okay. So the drums, they're so accessible because there's really only two different sounds you can really, or say notes you can get from a drum. You got the inner part of the drum, which has the deepest sound, and then on the outer where the rim is, you can have a higher sound, higher frequency. So it's a higher note. Unlike a piano, which I was trained as a pianist. You have 88 keys. Lots of choices, lots of ways to get mistakes. But with a drum, you basically have a drum head. And you can tap it with your fingers, with your hand, with your knuckles, or with a mallet. Okay. So yeah, our tambourine is basically a drum. It could be a drum, or it could be opening with bells on the edge. So percussion really is, you have your wood and you have your sand blocks. So you have wood percussion, you have drums, you have shakers, and you also have what we call them metals. That's M-E-T-A-L. It could be like your triangle tambourines could be a metal. Anything that makes a higher pitched chimes are metals. So you have four really different types of percussion.
Okay.
So
great. Well, thank you for clarifying that. So is that something that families can try on their own? I mean, I know a lot of people, dollars are short when dementia hits. And so can they get some of these percussion instruments and try some of this stuff at home?
Absolutely. I would say start with I always tell my family members who are interested in doing something at home, start with really something very simple with a buffalo drum or some type of drum. It could be a bigger drum, but something just to see if they react to it. I've been using my buffalo drum a lot, which is basically a drum that you hold from the back with a rope. It's a 16-inch bass drum, and you give the person a mallet if you like, or they can play with it. But it gives a way of communicating. This week I've been doing a lot with my facilities with heartbeat rhythms, the heartbeat, very simple heartbeat, and I have the person tap the drum and I hold it for them. So those are very accessible. Sound shapes they can hold themselves. It's like a dinner plate, and they can play with their fingers. It's very portable, so they can tap their knees. So those are things those are two I always recommend. I love maracas. I tend to bring the bigger ones, the big bright red or bright blue maracas. But it depends on don't get toys. I mean, you see maracas that are available at discount stores, which are great for children. So I really respect our elders, and I respect people with dementia. They understand that they don't want to be treated like children. So I have maracas that are very appealing and are very easy to clean. But the nice thing about maracas is that you can move with them. I am all about energy and make sure we provide a safe environment where they can move, they can dance, or they can tap their legs, or they can raise their arms. It's all about getting the whole body involved. You change your emotion by getting in motion. Exercise. This is one way to get exercise. So that's what I would say is the maracas, some drums, and the last thing is tactile stimulation is great. So I love bean bags because it's cloth. I find, especially people in later stages of dementia, is they like to feel things, lightweight cloths, ribbons, scarves. Those are great because you can move with them, but it feels good, and to them it feels great. And so I like doing a lot of balance with bean bags on our legs, on our shoulders. We clap together with bean bags, and then of course at the end of an activity with bean bags, we always have a target where they toss a bean bag into the target, like a cornhole type thing. So I'm in love with bean bags.
Okay.
I like to sew. So I've got all kinds of custom-made bean bags that I use for my clients just because it's so much fun.
I guess I wouldn't have thought of that with music therapy. The bean bags, yet they do make noise, and they they have that texture too. I think that people are looking for. Craig, have you found any certain types of music help you? I mean, it sounds like you have your hands on a lot of different types of things, or maybe even with others with dementia that you have seen really resonate.
Well, I grew up with a jazz background. In fact, when I was in high school, it was the end of the big band era, basically.
Okay.
So I myself have played percussion. When you're not playing trumpet, you play percussion on the side in that era. I go to a lot of spiritual music for when I'm having bad days, but I play a lot of classical music on my trumpet and a lot of jazz on my trumpet too. So that calms me down.
Okay.
One thing I noticed though is that the trumpet it comes naturally because it was in my distant memory.
Mm-hmm.
Where the guitar, I've been playing it for probably 6 months now, and I'm still having trouble getting past the first 3 or 4 chords because my memory just doesn't serve me in that direction.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Well, Craig, I tell you, it took me a long time to play guitar. So guitar, I commend you for trying it. Just stay with it. That's awesome because guitar, that's very complicated. Both hands, left and right. Oh, and you're playing chords? I'm impressed. It's amazing. Great.
Wonderful. Let's talk about, since we're talking about the guitar, can you talk a little bit about the harps? Because I've heard of, the harp music and the vibration, and they have the kind that just sit on your lap and stuff too, where they say people can really feel the sound.
Oh, yes. I have my favorite instrument, which I don't bring out too much, is I call it my angel harp. Mm-hmm. But it's an auto harp. Like you said, it sits on your lap. It can also sit on your shoulder, so you can read against your shoulder. And one thing, same with guitar, the harp has got these strings, and you feel the vibrations, and you feel the vibrations through your body. King Saul talked about in the Bible how he had David play his harp, and it helped him with his depression. Mm-hmm. That's biblical text, and there's all kinds of stories in the Bible about music helping people. So yes, if you ever go to a harp concert, we had a harp concert not too long ago in my local area. It had 6 harpists on this hardwood floor. Very intimate concert. Mm-hmm. I tell you, I felt so good because you just feel all those rhythms, and just all the vibrations, because your body can respond to that. Mm-hmm. And it's the drums the same way. The drums have a vibration as well, especially get the open faced one. But drumming the same way, you get the vibrations, and your body responds to that. Mm-hmm. It's automatic. It's entrainment. Your body responds to outside stimulus, and your blood pressure will change, your pulse will change, just because it reacts to it.
Okay. Wonderful. Now, I've heard from some music therapists that there are some dangers to using rhythm. Can you talk about that?
Yes, and I would say after going through that dementia, virtual dementia tour,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I realized as I was going through the tour, which is again simulation of something with dementia, the best they know, is I was like, wow, the outside stimulus of something with dementia, I can see where rhythm really makes a big impact. The biggest one is sound.
Mm-hmm.
Is make sure, with drumming with rhythm, is that make sure you have watch the atmosphere, make sure it's not a very closed environment where people really respond to sound in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the rhythm, you got to know your clients. And if I can share a story about this, I learned this the hard way. But I'll never, ever forget this example of how I unintentionally used rhythm, and it really triggered something I didn't realize it triggered. But I was doing a drum circle for some veterans that were mixed age of 50, 60-year-olds. So they were suffering from PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
post-traumatic stress disorder. And they asked me to do some drumming with them. And I know that's like, okay, you got to really be careful with people with the depression and those kind of things. So as I was unloading my drums, all the veterans were helping me. The Korean War and also the Gulf War veterans.
Mm-hmm.
They were helping me unload the drums, and they're like really having fun playing the drums. So I thought, okay, this will be fine. They're getting used to this.
Mm-hmm.
So when it's actually time for me to start my program, I had one of the veterans hold an ocean drum, which is a drum with beads inside of it, so it
Mm-hmm.
simulates the ocean,
Sure.
sound of an ocean. And I had that going with that bass drum that I was playing a real quick beat with,
Mm-hmm.
and it triggered some responses. I had a couple of people get up and just leave. I was like, oh my goodness. And they had told me later that triggered a negative response of a memory of them being near the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh. So you got to be really careful with the rhythm. Is drumming, especially, can be very, it could impact a trigger, something, you could trigger gunshots. I noticed that with veterans. You got to be really careful because I do a lot of World War II veterans that are in facilities. I'm very careful not to bring too loud of a drum because it could trigger something that you didn't mean to trigger. But yes, it could be emotional, especially. It could be, again, the loudness.
Mm-hmm.
It could also agitate somebody, make it more anxious because they're like, I don't want to hear this. I just want to silence,
Mm-hmm.
silence. So yeah, those are some things you got to really be careful with.
Okay. Well, that makes total sense with that. I know certain songs, a lot of times people will play what they like for music, and it really has to be about what the person with dementia likes for music. Craig, have you run into that where people are playing music that might trigger you one way or the other, and people are oblivious to it?
Oh yeah, real heavy metal music.
Mm-hmm.
I'll quote what a friend of mine says: it starts like a pinball machine in your head. You can't concentrate on anything, especially if there's lights involved. Also,
Mm-hmm.
it makes you very confused, and you have to leave the room.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And do people, how do they respond when you leave the room? Or do they understand, or are they just kind of oblivious?
Well, people that know me that I'm with,
Mm-hmm.
they know why I left the room because
Mm-hmm.
they've seen me deal with it before.
Mm-hmm.
But a heavy metal band doesn't really care why you left the room.
No, there's plenty of...
They're there to make money and make noise. So.
Yeah. There's plenty of others that'll listen, and be able to stay. Well, that's a great. Thank you for sharing that. I know some people will even talk about songs like on Eagle's Wings or something like that. It might be a loved one lost that brings them back, or it could be even a song of when they were just a really young child that brings them back, and then they will say that they're feeling lost and don't get comfort out of it because they're looking for that comfort of the home that was. Have you run into that, Becky?
Oh yeah, they call it the emotional your associations, because we remember those feelings we had. It could be pure joy, or it could be just the other, pure loss. Oh yes, I don't intend. I'm always looking how this music affecting somebody,
Mm-hmm.
and I see that. In fact, just yesterday, at one of my facilities I was at, we were doing a gospel song, and a man was just tearing up, crying profusely, and I was like, oh no. So I went and talked to him up to the side. He goes, oh, this means so much to me. Jesus, our Christ, our Savior, died for us, and this song reminds me of that. I mean, it was that kind of tearing, but it does bring back so many emotional associations of a loss of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
Especially during the holidays, during Mother's Day, during Father's Day. For me, it could be during Memorial Day. It's a very emotional experience for some of the facilities I go to, because they have a lot of veterans that are living there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a picnic.
Yep.
That's not what I have at holiday. And so I'm really careful of some of the patriotic music that I use, because it just brings back all the association memories. So yes, like I said, music is a gift, but it's also a risk. You really got to be careful with it.
Yeah, yes. And some of the things you had talked about was the overstimulation or hearing loss, increased anxiety, unexpected emotional responses can be triggered, or unwanted physical responses, and then just increased confusion. And I guess I've seen all of those, many times over in dealing with various people who have had dementia in my life. And then I wanted to mention, because you've got a great handout too that we linked to, that people can get from you that talk about music and the joys and how to use rhythm. And I love the examples that you've listed here, which is really neat. But before going over that, I also wanted to just highlight some other responses or reactions that people should watch for when they're living with somebody with dementia. And a lot of this can be, as nonverbal stuff. Can you go over some of those things that people should just be on the outlook for?
Yeah, so we talked about the change in verbal expression, yelling or screaming. I mean, I'm only one of the facilities that I go to. We were just starting the music therapy group, and this man just started yelling and screaming at the top of his lungs, saying, "I don't want to be here." I mean, something triggered, and this was Thursday he said that. And it wasn't necessarily the music, but it was just, I think, a combination of what was going on between the music, and we had more people in the room. So it was one of those yelling and screaming examples that can bring in the overstimulation or the change in verbal expression. Also, change in alertness. Mm-hmm. It may overstimulate or may which is it could be you have to be very careful with it. But you energize somebody so much, especially with the drumming, if they're using their hand, they may not realize that they may hurt themselves physically by drumming too hard. Uh-huh. I see that a lot. They're having so much fun in the moment of making music with drums, they don't realize that they're hurting their hands. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of stretches before and after, rub your hands, because sometimes they get into it. Or with the maracas, we were doing really high energy maraca movement exercise today. And I know everybody's hearts was pacing. Mine was up. I know theirs was too, which is a good thing. But you also got to make sure you don't over-energize them where they bring too much energy. Because they get so excited, they may get up and start dancing, and it might be a fall risk. So I just say that, just be very careful. The music can really excite them too much where they get too into it. they may change the orientation in time, place, or person. So they may bring them back. I talked about the example with a veteran. The drum beat might bring them back to when they were marching. Being in the Navy, we did a lot of group exercises, and we run in formation, Yodis.
Okay.
You run in formation. And it's rhythm, again, it's rhythm. And it may bring them back to those days when they may have their people that they served with, the comrades, they may not be still living, so they may bring that up. So yes.
Okay.
And changing in breathing. Yeah, changing breathing is another way you have to be there. Watch the breathing. Make sure not over breathing or under.
Okay. And just like the gaze and the eye,
yes.
Maybe trying to wander, movement changes. I mean, there's so many different things. If they look stressed with their arms, wrapped tight, or their fists, tight, there's something going on there that we need to pay attention to.
Right. Or if they cover their ears. If they cover their ears with their hands, it's too loud. So yes, watch it too. Yes.
Yep. Now, can you explain this download that people can get? Because I think it's very, it's just great information. And you've titled it, Steps to Creating Connection and Joy with Rhythm.
Yes, thank you so much for posting that for me. As I go to the memory care facilities, I talk to many of the family members and staff saying, how can I'm here, with my mother, with my father, and I have no instruments, but I want to be able to have something to do that's fun.
Yep.
So what I created was 10 simple body percussion activities anybody can do. If you can count to 4, you can do this. So the very first part of the download or the handout is the steps to creating a connection with joy. Because as a Teepa Snow certified trainer and coach, you really want to make sure the positive approach with personal positive care. And when you do that is make sure they see you first. You approach slow. Make sure they see you visually from the front. You want to get down to eye level. And the biggest thing I can say is smile. You can never smile too much. And then greet hello. But the steps there on how to create a connection, before you even do the clapping, you want to make sure they acknowledge you, that you see them. So the very first thing, like I said, if you can count to 4, you can do this. The very first thing is counted breathing. Where you inhale for 4 beats, exhale for 4 beats. So you would say, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And you can start that with your breath. And you're going to notice it's okay to, and then gradually slow down the counting. Or if you want to get them with a more activity level, then maybe speed up the rhythm, speed up the counting. And then you can move your hands, you can stretch, you can wiggle your fingers to 4 beats. But that's the very first thing. I always start my activities with some type of deep breathing. Heartbeat rhythm is placing your hands on your heart and just do 1, 2, pause. Tap, tap, pause. So starting with a heartbeat, so that's the second thing you can do. And I like doing a warm-up song. It goes, clap, clap, clap your hands together. Clap, clap, clap your hands together. And you can tap your legs, you snap your fingers, you can hit your hip, and then you can go faster, slower. The advantage of using your body and using your voice or chanting is that you can change the tempo. You can make it slower or faster, softer or louder. So that's the wonderful thing about body percussion. You have it with you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and that's
So
nice.
there's 10 of those. There's 10 little activities you can do. They're so much fun.
Well, and the one thing that I remember is, with my mom is I can't sing, but she didn't care, because it was about the rhythm. It wasn't about the tone. And I don't know, Craig, maybe you have a difference there, but I know with my mom, she just didn't care. She just wanted to have fun. And maybe she was tone deaf from me over all those years. I don't know. But have you found for you, is tone a big issue, or is it more the rhythm that engages you?
Tone's a big issue with me because I've always been spot on as far as tuning.
Yep.
So I'm very fussy when it comes to if someone's singing off key, for instance. It drives me nuts.
Okay, and it does me too. So that's something to be aware of too, in terms of if you're engaging with somebody, knowing how they feel about that. So, right. Good point. Good point.
And Lori, I will say that's why I love the drum,
mm-hmm.
because you don't have to sing. I have never had a voice lesson.
Mm-hmm.
I have never had a percussion drum lesson. But those are the two things I use the most because it's me, it's my voice. But I agree with Craig. It's the tone of your voice that matters.
Mm-hmm.
It's your voice. It's your connection. It's your relationship with your voice. So yes, your tone of voice is a huge impact. But chanting, speaking in rhythm is just as well. Trust me, I deal with people who don't want to sing, and that's quite all right.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, then just talk it, or just tap it
mm-hmm.
before you know it's doing it. But that's why I love percussion. You don't have to use your voice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's great to know. Becky, why don't you give people the best contact information to get a hold of you? We have it listed on the website. It's on the blog. It's on the radio show page. It's on Facebook and stuff. But why don't you go ahead and give people, phone number and website and so forth?
My phone number is area code 757-563-3488. So 757-563-3488. My website is music4 with the number 4 wellness WELLNESS .net. And my email is Becky BECKY at music MUSIC the number 4 wellness.net.
Okay.
And I also have a YouTube channel. I'm going to go on there, and I'm always looking for ways to help. That's why I created this little handout for 10 ways to connect with rhythm, because I see a tremendous opportunity to help families, care partners, to improve the relationships through connection with their loved one and treasure what they have left. I mean, rhythm is retained. Everything that is lost with someone with dementia, rhythm is one of those preserved skills. So isn't poetry. So
mm-hmm.
isn't prayer. But treasure what they have left. Treasure those moments and just celebrate what they have left. And rhythm is one of those great gifts.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Becky. I really appreciate it. Craig, is there any last question that you'd like to ask Becky?
Yes, I'd like to commend her on what she's doing. You see, I've been in nursing homes and stuff and played Christmas carols, and it's amazing the response that you get from the older patients. And what she's doing is probably aiding these people more than she knows.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Craig. And it is. It's such a fulfilling. I just feel like I'm living my mission with what I'm supposed to be doing now. Now, even though my own mother is no longer with us, her spirit is with me. And she's always telling me, I told you so, you should do music, you should do music. So now she's saying it in more ways than one. But music helps us connect spiritually as well. And that's one thing, you can't really put words on it. is how it brings us to a transcendent level where we can go deeper with building community. You know, the people with dementia, they lose so much, but there's so much social isolation that when we are together in a group with other people, with your loved one, it's just being with them, being physically present with them, and you can do that with music, and they come together with music and be able to celebrate and enjoy it in a meaningful, purposeful task. Everybody feels so good. So I am just so honored to be able to share this wonderful gift with people. And I love sharing this. I do a lot of keynote presentations, I call it experiential, where it's interactive. So if anybody's looking for an interactive keynote presenter, I love to travel. So
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And Craig, thank you for participating and being my co-host today. I really appreciate it. For those of you that are listening, you may be new to the Alive and Social Network. I would encourage you to check out Rachel Perrin, who is the culinary director of Kowalski's Market, along with her producer and sidekick, Adam Lee. They talk with all their foodtastic friends and colleagues and chat about seasonal flavors and favorite foods and trending topics in nutrition. And their program is called What's for Dinner Tonight? And it's only about 10 to 15 minute long podcast, but it gives you ideas on, helping you figure out what the heck you're going to make that evening, or maybe you're, planning out. You might want to go to Kowalskis.com and get a full menu of ideas, and that's KOWALSKIS.com, Kowalskis.com. If you haven't listened to our recent shows, you might want to check them out. We've been doing this for years now, and so all of our shows are archived. But we just had the gals on from Dementia Raw training last week, and they were a hoot. And they talk about their unscripted and unconventional and unapologetic ways, and they use improv in terms of training. So that was a really fun show. We've also talked about triumphs, struggles, and passions with somebody who was living with dementia. We talked about horseplay and horse therapy and the gifts wrapped in Alzheimer's. Lots of fun shows. Our last Dementia Chats, which is actually a video interview with people who are diagnosed with dementia. Craig is actually one of our experts. We talked about advocacy roles, duties, and succession plans. So as the disease carries forward, how does that wand get passed to the next guy? I also want to note that I am going to be in Schererville, Indiana on February 13th, and Mokina, Illinois on the 14th, and Algonquin, Illinois on the 15th. We're going to be doing screenings of His Neighbor Phil. So check with me on more details with that. You may want to look at the blog. You'll find a letter that Michael Ellenbogen wrote to the president, as well as some videos that 60andMe did with me on dementia. Last, I'll just give a shout out to our friends at the Caregiver Alert Center. I should say the Call Alert Center, but the Caregiver Alert Center is kind of dementia related there. And also Calendar Cards, who provides the Memory Cafe directory, which is just really easy to work with. Until next time, have a blessed week. Bye now.
Hi, this is Suzanne Newman, host of the Answers for Elders podcast and radio show. We are the North Star that guides you through the complicated journey of senior care with trusted experts in money, law, living solutions, and more. So join us on this station, your favorite podcast channel, or just go to AnswersForElders.com. Meet the Wayshowers who will help your journey go a lot easier.